Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel where you can find interior design tips and inspiration. Today we're going to do a slightly different video. I want to talk about 10 different things that I learned in interior design school. I recently was telling someone that I wasn't sure if I wanted to go to interior design school when pursuing this career, and I was telling them that I was so glad that I decided to do so. I learned so many things that I feel like if you don't go to design school, you can still learn going through different things and working at different places, but I'm just really glad that I was able to get knowledgeable on this information before starting a career. A lot of people think that interior design is just completely aesthetics based and you can easily throw something together and have it look beautiful, which obviously some people have better skill sets than others, and that can be true, but there's a lot of other things that come into play for functionality. There is a science, there's math behind this. It's not as easy as just throwing together something because it looks beautiful. If you want it to function properly and have the best of both worlds of aesthetics and function. I thought that this would be fun for you to see what I enjoyed learning about interior design school, and if you want me to make more in-depth videos on any of these topics, I think that that would be super awesome and I would love to do so. So without further ado, let's get into the 10 different things that I learned in interior design school that made me glad that I went to design school. The first thing that I want to discuss is that things have to be to scale. Now, when I was really young, I would put together drawings of what I assumed were the dimensions of my room and the size of furniture, not really knowing that there was a way to actually take that information, to do measurements and put that onto a piece of paper or a program that did all that for you. Making sure that things are going to fit with realistic dimensions, with the dimensions of your space, your furniture, and everything like that is by far one of the very first things that I learned in interior design school and is extremely helpful. And that is something that I use extremely often, all the time. It is such a crucial part of going through and making a design. The second thing that I want to mention is that there are so many different codes. Now, residential design has a little bit less and more flexible codes, and codes vary from state to state, country to country, but overall commercial projects and commercial design has a lot more codes. There's fire codes, there's ADA codes, there's all these different standards that every building has to have when you are creating a new construction or even remodeling. There's a lot of things to take into consideration, not only to help the functionality, but to make sure that things are structurally sound and can function. The third thing that I learned in design school is that you have to pick and choose where you're going to have expertise and what you're going to specialize in. This can be really hard for a designer because you want to know a lot of information, you want to have education and everything, so you can give your clients the best of the best, all of the new information, but you also rely a lot on your trades to have that communication with you and your clients. There are so many different things that go into homes, especially with new construction. It is nearly impossible for an interior designer to have the most up-to-date knowledge on appliances, on tile materials, on wallpaper, all these different things. Although interior designers do have a lot of general information, we do rely a lot on our trades to give us the most up-to-date things, what new technology is there. We have to work a lot with other people and other trades to make sure that we have the full umbrella of knowledge that we can give to our clients. Although you can be generally really knowledgeable about a lot of things, it is good to pick something specific to be an expert in. That may be kitchen and bath, that may be stone, that might be exterior. There's a lot of different ways that you can kind of narrow in and make sure that you have your toolbox really loaded with information in an area which will make you more marketable. The fourth thing that I learned in interior design school is color theory. Now, I had a whole entire semester class all dedicated to color and color theory. We learned the history of color, how different cultures and religions and different people have used color to signify different things. We learned a lot about the tones of color, what a warm tone versus a cool tone is, how all sorts of different colors can have both warm and cool tones, and how different colors interact with each other, and how lighting affects color, and just how color can interact with different elements, different colors, different things, and look completely different. This is one thing that I think would be a really interesting video if you want me to go more in depth. There's a lot to know about color, and I think a lot of people could benefit from knowing more about color theory. Number 5 is one of my favorite classes that I took in design school, which was an elective course called Design Psychology. This is really related to organizational psychology and environmental psychology. It was a specific interior design course about design psychology. We learned a lot of different things, like how different ceiling heights affect us, and how in restaurants a lot of people prefer booth seating over other different types of seating. We learned all about biophilic design, which I recently made a video on, so I will link it above in case you were curious about that. One of my favorite styles of design. Mainly the course was just about how we as human beings interact with our spaces, how they affect us psychologically, and how we can use the science of psychology to create better, more functional spaces for us. Number 6 is very, very broad, and it is just all the different softwares that I learned in design school. So my school specifically taught us how to use AutoCAD, Revit, Photoshop, and InDesign. Those were the 4 main softwares that we learned in school. I have been fortunate enough to learn other softwares in my time of working in the design field as well, like SketchUp, Cabinet Vision, which is more specifically about cabinets than interior design, but different softwares I've been able to learn as well. But those were the 4 softwares that design school taught me. But there are so many different programs to learn as an interior designer. Not that you need to know all of them, but it is good to know a few key ones that are just kind of industry standards, such as AutoCAD. Number 7 is another elective design course that I took, which is feng shui. I took feng shui and design psychology at the same time, which was a little bit confusing. Personally, I feel like feng shui is a little bit more hippie woo-woo, doesn't have as much to back it up, whereas design psychology is an actual science. To me, made more sense than feng shui. I think that there was a lot of good things that I learned in feng shui. If you're into astrology, you might really like feng shui. There's things to do with birth charts. We learned about the 5 different elements and how you want to incorporate those into your space, and how different directions and where your house is located in those directions. It was very, very interesting. There are some things that I took from that class that I do like to practice. I'm not a certified feng shui practitioner or anything like that, but I did see some things that I really loved about the style, and some things that I didn't really feel were fitting for me. Number 8, I had an entire class all about materials. I was a little disappointed with this class because I love the construction design of interior design. I love remodels and new construction, and so I was wishing that we would learn more about stone and flooring and tile, those kinds of things. What that course mainly focused on was the different materials such as boucle and damask and chintz, those different kinds of materials that you would use on upholstery and furniture. It was very overwhelming to me because even though I sewed a little bit as a child, I really didn't know that much about these materials, and there was a lot of information. We had to make a whole entire book of materials. I think there was probably over 150 materials that we had to find and tell the qualities of and that sort of thing. So for me, it was very overwhelming, and I don't feel like it's something that I will use every single day in my specific interior design area that I like to design for. Number 9 is lighting. Again, this was an entire course that I had to take. This was a required class that I had to take to fulfill requirements for my degree, and I wish this course was a little bit better, but I think I did learn a lot of great basics about lighting, color, and the spectrum of kelvins. I learned how to calculate how much light you will need in a space. I would leave those calculations to a lighting specialist because there are people that will specifically do that and specialize in lighting. We learned about wattages and those sorts of things. So I think that I have a basic understanding, but I will lean on lighting specialists for some of those calculations to ensure the best possible outcome for my client. Number 10 is kind of random, and it is QuickBooks. I did have a course in interior design specifically giving us tools to be independent designers, and I thought it was very interesting that they taught us how to use QuickBooks because I would suspect to learn that in strictly a business course possibly, but an interior design business course, I definitely wasn't expecting to learn how to use QuickBooks. Maybe one day I will use and be really glad to have the knowledge, but I don't feel like it was completely 100% necessary. On that note, let me know if you would be interested in a list of things I wish I would have learned in interior design school, things that I've learned while being in the industry that I wish design school would have given me as tools in preparation for that. Thank you so much for joining me on today's video. I would love to know if you are thinking about going into design school, if this video was helpful for you at all. I'm very, very curious. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I hope to see you next time.